and I don't know what this is about human psychology, but when you ask them, what did you love about your last gym, your last whatever, every time the answer will be this. Oh, I loved this and I loved this. And they were so good at this. You know what drove me nuts though? And they start listing off all these reasons. And I don't know why. It's like if someone asks you what, how was vacation? You're like, it was great, loved it. Flights were kind of a mess.
All right, welcome to Little Jim Big Heart, my interview series. I'm here with a guest that I'm really excited about, Mike Manzi. So I stumbled across Mike's Instagram, and I think he's putting out some of the best sales advice on the entire internet. You know, the fitness industry really kind of comes out of like Alex Hormozi's the sales guy, Jeremy Miner's the sales guy. Where I really like and have found value in Mike's work is not only his sales acumen in terms of the conversational aspect of sales, but specifically in sales leadership and sales management and what it takes to be a sales rep. Not enough people are talking about the life of a sales rep and what it takes to succeed in sales, especially in fitness. So that's why I'm so excited to invite Mike onto the podcast. So, Mike, thanks for joining me.
Super glad to be here, and I totally agree. There's a ton of stuff for sales. There's a ton of stuff for B2C sales, a ton of stuff for new sales, ton of stuff for door-to-door sales. But what about running that sales organization in the first place and making sure that they're doing what they should do? Because I'll tell you what, first thing you learn when you start running any level of an organization, therefore running sales, is wow, this is a lot more annoying than I thought it was going to be. And why is it so hard?
Yeah. And give it like the overview of your background and kind of what
Sure.
got you into this position that you're in.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I've been in sales the last 20, leadership the last 10. What's unique about my approach? I made a really weird decision. When I was, I think, 25 or 20, maybe I was 27 actually, I got fired. I had a good team. We went from a team of 4 to a team of 14. I like took all the SDRs, got all sorts of different people on my team. We were doing well. The company decided that a PE firm was going to buy them, and they just turned it into a chop shop. So I was fired. Now I didn't even get that, like what happened in reality. I just thought I'm bad, and I know we all have our own like we're the worst, no one likes us things, and that's how I felt. And so I decided I was like, this is it. I want to figure out what makes the best manager ever, and I don't want to be stuck into just software. So I was at software companies, B2C companies. I sold T-shirts for about a year, um, services, and I'm like, I'm going to go to every different industry I possibly can and figure out what works ubiquitously. And so that's what I did for the next 7, 8, 9 years, maybe 10 years. And then a few years ago, I started posting on Instagram, posting on TikTok, and got the opportunity to be a fractional sales leader for softwares, for service companies, for physical products. So everything from I'm selling couches to colleges through I'm selling AI software. And what I realized was the reason I was so effective in these organizations wasn't I had some knowledge of some sales methodology that someone else didn't have. It was I knew all the things to not do
Right.
because I saw what worked ubiquitously versus, well, what's worked in most software companies is blank. Let's keep doing that. It was like, well, what I know works, whether you're big, small, software, not software, personal, doesn't matter. These are the things that work. And so the last 5 years I've spent helping these organizations go from no sales organization to a sales organization or an unorganized sales organization to an organized one. So everybody can just make more money and be less stressed out.
That's great, man. And that's where I think I've gotten a lot of value from your content. Just before we get too far, we'll drop your Instagram or TikTok. I don't have TikTok. And I
Fine.
think I would not have a job if I had TikTok because I'd
Tell
just
me
get
about it.
sucked into it. But what's your credential?
Yep. So the handle you're going to want to find for me on Instagram is official sales tips. And the handle you're going to want to find at TikTok is official sales leader tips. Google anything and type in official sales tips though, and I'll come up on the first page. Get in there.
All right, cool. I don't know if you know this, and I can edit this out if you want, but if you Google Michael Manzi,
It's so bad.
don't do, yeah.
Good news is I look nothing like, we're different
Yeah.
skin, different hair. I have hair. But yes, in fact, so this guy got arrested. He's a terrible guy. One year I went on vacation. I came back from vacation and my sales team had like printed out like 1,000 pictures of that guy and put them all over my office. I had no idea what it was until they told me. So yes, don't Google Mike Manzi. Do Google official sales tips.
Yeah, he was on the not a victim, he was a perpetrator on How to Catch a Predator. So
Yes, big time.
so yeah, pretty
Only
un
the strongest people bring that up to me. So Devin, you seem very strong.
so back to, I want to paint the kind of create the canvas for the fitness industry.
Yeah,
Most gyms, so I'm in a unique position. I have multiple locations. We have a centralized sales team, but most people don't. Most gyms, especially the people that listen to my podcast, the one or two people out there, a lot of times they're either people that are employees in a fitness company, so a gym or personal training studio. We really specialize in that kind of sphere, that
yep,
group or personal training model. Or it's like a founder led, sales manager or founder salesperson,
sure, sure.
or maybe they've got a trainer that they've asked to like help with sales. And I think that's before we get too deep into like how to scale and how to build a sales organization, which I think is incredibly helpful, and we'll get to that. How can you just close more deals as a fitness professional if either you're doing it yourself or you've got a trainer that is doing it? Where would you start in terms of like, where do you even start if you want to start thinking like a real salesperson?
Yeah, there's actually a few things that I want to go through today, and I know I said ahead of time a few things that we could talk about, but I might go off. Not that we're on a script, but I might go off script here. So let me
All
reel
good.
me in at any point. All right. Any good sales interaction needs to have a couple of really critical components, and I'm sure we all know the most basic ones. There needs to be some establishing of credibility or rapport building. There needs to be some level of discovery to identify, to get this person into a spot where they're explaining their pains and to get some more information about those pains so that when we do explain our solution, we can tie it to pains versus I want good. I have thing good, good. And if you think about Hermosi, without that pain information, you can't know their dream outcome or the pain that they're trying to avoid. So you need to have those things in there. But I want to zoom in to create some real tactical items to give your audience. The first one is the close. So often we're afraid of rejection. All of us are. So we will say, like, what do you think? Sound good? Should I get you in here? Maybe we're really fancy and we know to just go for the close. And we're like, should I sign you up right now? And inevitably the person says, maybe, maybe not, I'm with my wife, whatever it is. They're not quite ready in that moment. But really what I want to do before the close, because that's when they're going to feel the pressure, is I want to actually say, if this didn't work out, if this wasn't the right location for you, if you went home and decided you didn't want to sign up, if your wife you said you want to talk to decides that it's not worth it, whatever it is, if this didn't work out, what would the most likely one or two reasons be?
I love that
What
question.
we're doing here is I'm getting the objections in a safe environment. If I say, do you want to buy? And they say no, and I say, why? This is not a safe environment. I'm
Right.
nervous to tell you because you smell bad and I don't like how the locker rooms are set up or whatever. But if I say, hey, hypothetically, in a world where you don't, which is totally a cool thing, you don't. What do you think that world that you're not in? What might be there? You can then overcome those objections and talk through those things in the moment and then go for the close. But once you go for the close, you're done. That's
Right. So that's, I'm a believer. I love Sandler and Keenan gap selling. Those are like my
yeah,
two biggest influences. And their thing is like the close is predominantly, predicted based on how well you open. Like you really
right.
shouldn't
Kind of
close.
like the
You should
end,
really just,
inevitable end.
yeah, it's like people jump to closing way too soon. Um, I love the way that you flipped it because you go to like painting the negative side and pulling out those objections. Another variation, which I like yours better, that I've talked about is, hey, what are you looking for in a gym to know that? What do you need to hear to know that this is like the perfect fit? right? So it's kind of the opposite. Like instead of what you
Yeah.
said, which is if I just want to repeat it because I want to ingrain it in my brain. Um, if you went home and decided this wasn't the fit, what would trigger that for you?
What would be the reasons that it wasn't? Let me actually push back on you.
Yeah,
So what I find if I go on a date with you and I or whatever, if we're on a date, I never met you, and I say, hey, what are you looking for in a guy? And let's say you love blonde guys. You're not gonna say I love blonde guys because you see I don't have blonde hair. So you're actually going to hold back what actually you care about. Also, if you say what I care about is guys who make a lot of money, and I then talk about how much money I make, you're not going to trust that because now you know that I'm just saying it to make you happy. It's sort of like why our significant others say things like, I don't want to have to tell you what I need. I want you to just know. It's because if I tell you, hey, I want you to do the laundry, and you do the laundry, the real thing I wanted was not you to do the laundry. The real thing I wanted was for you to see my needs and try to solve them for me because you care. But if you
yeah,
do the laundry, now you're doing a transaction. I told you to do something and you're now doing it. So what I would actually urge you to consider is when you think about gyms that you've considered in the past, what are the things that have caused you to not go to them? What are some things you've not liked about gyms in general? Tell me about your experience with other gyms. Why haven't you just joined other gyms that are in the area or other gyms that you're familiar with? This is sort of the same question of like with dating. Like, how come there haven't been other people that you've been interested that you've settled down with? That's going to cause them to say like, well, this guy was kind of a jerk, and this guy was too short, and this guy didn't make enough money. Cool, I'm now understanding what you are looking for without you telling me, and now me talking about what I think you are looking for won't seem like a transaction. It will seem like I'm just understanding you. Um, so I would urge you to consider that type of a question. What have you looked for in the past? What sort of gyms are not a good fit for you? Well, they'll feel much more safe to explain that than what are you looking for in a gym. Not that that's a bad question. It is a good question.
no, no. That's why. Listen, that's why I wanted to have this conversation because I think I'm learning just as much as I hope everyone else is learning. And I think it's similar to just the idea of getting people to say no puts them in a safe. They feel it's that perception of control versus like the pushy sales guy or those questions that smell like a salesperson's question.
Hey, oh my God, said so well. If if you smell a sales rep in any way, they will run. It's why today, even when a person at like Macy's is like, "Can I help you with anything?" No, because we know that they're going to try to sell us some crap.
Even
Versus,
I talk about this a lot, even though you probably would be way more efficient.
yes,
It would be very helpful if they helped you right away, but everybody's natural inclination is just be like, no, I'm good.
exactly. Objects in motion will stay, or whatever. Objects, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. No one's going to start momentum. So let's go to the other thing that's really important. I think in sales that we often get wrong is we know the discovery is important. We know we should ask a question. We're also very excited to hear about this new person, but actually, the person is there and they want to get an overview of your gym and get an understanding of this gym. They're already getting it based on when they went to Google and the first couple images that came up, how the experience was in the parking lot, what it was like when they open the door, what they see when they do this, or on the phone with you, whatever that experience is. They're getting their own picture. So if we're allowing them to have their own picture and we're then going discovery question, discovery question, discovery question, they're further creating this mental image of what they think is the vibe. And we then say, yeah, we have, and inevitably you're going to say the same shit everybody else has. You have these machines and this, your version of it, right? But these things, you've told them we have these physical items, we have racks and classes, and their vision of what that is was painted by them, not you.
Right.
So what you want to do is you want to start and take control. So don't just go, what's up? Let's dive in. Or like, what's on your mind? Why'd you join? Why are you interested? You want to start with, hey, let me give you a quick overview of what it is that we do here, and then we can dive in. So we want to give a quick trailer of what we do. So a couple of tips here in this trailer. The first thing you want to do is you want to think about your essence. What is your gym's essence? Is it it's different when you go to Planet Fitness than versus when you go to Lifetime than when you go to like more of a boxing gym, right? There's a ness. Now, that nest, that essence is maybe like the environment. It's fun, inviting, and maybe the style of lifting and stuff you do there is very intense. It's for people that are looking to bulk up, whatever. But think about what that is and drive that up front so you can say, like, hey, the brand of who we are is blank. So this might sound like cool. So as an overview, the reason we started this gym was because we saw X, Y, or Z was a problem, and we wanted a place where people could have X, Y, or Z experience. And that's why we have customers like A, B, and C who want to feel that environment. So now I've given a quick like, oh, okay, now I'm seeing in my head what that picture really meant that I saw. When I saw a picture of like tacos, I didn't really understand why that's here, but he just talked about how this is a very community driven environment. And maybe that taco thing had to do with some community event they were doing.
Hmm.
Okay, cool. So now you're repositioning all the things that they've thought. The other thing you want to do is you want to handle objections right now, which is weird,
Early as possible.
as early as possible and before they bring them up. So what I'm going to say here is I might say, let's say a typical objection. Typical objection I get is, hey, Mike, I don't think you're going to know my industry. I get what you've been doing, but you don't know my industry. So in my overview, I'm like, hey, Mike, blah, 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 blah. One thing that's unique about my perspective on things or working with me is that I have a really unique experience that goes through dozens of different industries. So this means that I'm hoping that you are not looking for someone who's only looking in your industry, but someone who has experience of what works ubiquitously. This whole thing I'm talking about, ubiquity with me, I've been saying it for 5 years because I'm like, the objection is you don't know my space. So in my overview is I happen to know every space.
Right.
So similar for you, this should be like if you have people that are typically saying no because they don't go to the gym often enough or they need accountability or whatever, that should be in your overview. Great, we're like this. One other thing that's unique about us is we want to make it so the people who have X, Y, or Z problem don't have that problem here. So we do X, Y, or Z to make sure they don't have that problem here.
Yeah, and the way that I've used that is almost in features. Like, hey, mind if I ask, like, if you're looking for something like an open gym with tons of equipment and pools and amenities and lavender scented towels, it's just not what we do. Our
Mhm.
program is results driven, so everything that we do here is designed to help you lose body fat and build muscle. So, like, you're kind of matching. Like, somebody might walk in and be like, "Ooh, it's a little intense looking here." But you're repositioning that intensity is like because this is what gets results versus the fluffy lavender towels that you might
Oh,
get.
well, I'll push on it too to say if someone walks in and they're like, "Hey, what's going on?" Yeah, listen, I was at Lifetime before, and before that I was at Equinox, and you're like, "Oh God, this is like not really my target customer." And you know that what and they're like, "Yeah, I'm looking for a new place," and you know that the second they walked in, they were like, "This isn't it."
Right.
So what I might say then is knowing that objection is going to come up. I might say, one thing that's unique about us is we know that you want to have the lifestyle of somebody who is able to go to gyms that are super fancy and have these really great experiences with other people around you. You care about the environment of your life. Now, what we do is we want to actually not be another environment of your life. We want to improve the other areas of the environment of your life. We want to make it so that when you go to your friend's pool, when you go to that gala, when you're at work, when you're even in the grocery store trying to meet new people in the area, that you're having an experience that's one that's very, very high end. And that's going to come from you having a high end body. So we provide a very interesting, unique experience here to give you that high end body. So I'm now
Yeah.
like handling that objection before it comes up. So you might want to think, what are the two, three different classic objections I get or don't get, but assume?
Right.
And then what are the two, three, four ways I could reposition that in the introduction of my product so that it's not an objection in the first place?
Yeah, and one of the ones that we hear a lot, or it's not even an objection as much as when people start talking, be like, "Oh yeah, I was at Burn Boot Camp, or I did Fit Body Boot Camp for a long time. I loved it, and I'm just looking for something, that's gonna like get me results like that again." And a lot of people jump to like, "Oh, well, we do the same thing," and they start selling against that thing. And what I tell my guys is like the best way to approach that is when somebody raves about their previous gym or whatever they were doing before is like, hey, do you mind if I ask, like, it sounds like you were doing really well there. Is there a reason you don't just go back there? Because now they're going to tell you all the reasons that they don't want to go back there or it didn't work out. But if you start selling against that and be like, oh, well, we do the same thing, but it's better, that's sales guy language, and
Yes.
immediately defense mechanism is going to go up. But if you retreat and you're like, oh, well, it sounds like it worked out for you, so is there a reason you don't go back there?
Yeah,
Now,
or like just why don't you just or just even just go back there? Yeah, perfect. I say that all the time. Totally love that. And then the what I'll add to it, not this is not pushback at all, is what you love about it. What and I don't know what this is about human psychology, but when you ask them what did you love about your last gym, your last whatever, every time the answer will be this. Oh, I loved this and I loved this, and they were so good at this. You know what drove me nuts though? And they start listing off all these reasons. And I don't know why. It's like if someone asks you what, how was vacation? You're like, it was great, loved it. Flights were kind of a mess.
yeah.
I don't know what it is. But if you say what you love about it, they'll tell you all these all these things. If you say, why didn't you join or why didn't you stay, they'll also tell you the negative things. So either one of those is wonderful.
All right, cool. So anything else on closing, like, where you see maybe a gym manager or a trainer, stumble on a close? And
Mhm.
I've got my own thoughts, but I'm curious,
Yeah.
what comes to mind for you?
Well, um, it's leaving things open-ended, I think is the biggest one. And so I'll give a couple of little tips here. So the first one is the phrase too soon. I talk about this quite a bit. So if someone's like, great, I will think about it, I'll get back to you. Or like, great, I'll probably come in sometime this week, or great, whatever. I want to be like, great, do you think that like will you know the next day or two, or will that be too soon? The purpose of that is the question I'm asking is pushy. I'm being a pushy salesperson. I'm like, will you decide in the next day? Oh, yikes. But if I'm like, hey, will you decide in the next day or two, or would that be way too soon?
Yeah.
Now I'm saying, like, hey, I know what I just asked was kind of crazy, and it's totally okay for you to say that's crazy. What ends up happening, again, this weird psychology, I don't know what it is they will always say, yes, that is too soon, but I'll let you know in 2 days. Like whatever time frame you give, they'll just pick like the next closest one, whatever reason. Okay. So that's number one, just to speed things up to say, like, great, you want to talk to your wife later tonight? Cool. Would it be too soon to know if we're gonna join or not in the next 1 or 2 days, or is that too soon?
When you're also eliciting a no, right? So
Right,
if,
totally.
hey, is that long enough? That elicits a yes response by saying, is it crazy to ask if tomorrow is too soon? That elicits the likely response is, oh no, that's fine. And that no is going to give them the perception of control that they
Nailed it.
are in
Kevin,
front of you.
sales.
Right? Yeah.
Sales. That's it. And then the last thing I would say is just creating some momentum. We're trying to take a stationary object and move it. We need
Yeah.
to create some momentum. So what I would recommend here is you're leaving with, hey man, let me get your cell phone really quick though. I want to shoot you something. Or like, all right, cool. Listen, I'm gonna shoot you a quick note. What's your cell? And you're then getting some action here. So right afterwards, you can send them something nice, not salesy, just like check this thing out, or like saw your just I just checked your Instagram out. Hope you don't mind, but loved like this picture, dude. Saw you were something to create some connection between you and this person, so they kind of feel like I'm already there, and I can now talk to this person over text as I have issues later tonight versus I talk to my wife. She goes, well, what about this? What about that? And I go, oh, yeah. Well, what am I going to do? Walk back to the gym, knock on the door, call the guy, talk? No. But if I get a text from him that was like an hour ago being like, yo, here's this cool thing, I might be like, hey, man, do you guys have like any intro fees? Oh, no. Great. I'll sign up tomorrow. So like minimize the effort to say yes and create connection to early to drive some momentum is what I'd say
How
for
do
close.
you how do you pre-handle the talk to a spouse objection?
Um, okay, cool. Um, a couple different ways. One is you can what's the word I'm looking for? Prime people. I don't know if that's the right word actually. But you actually tell people like, hey, I can tell you're the kind of person who's able to make big decisions. And I
Yeah.
know that though you probably have a lot of people you want to chat with, you seem like the kind of guy who would blank. I'm glad to see that you're really decisive. I can tell that you can
It's priming. Yeah.
yeah, really. So that's priming. Cool. So priming is one of them. Um, the other is I'll bring that person into the conversation. So in my discovery, in my showing of the gym, whatever, I'm not going to just say like, "What do you think? What do you think? What do you think?" But I'll say, "What is your what if your wife were here? What would she think?" If the people you would need to talk to were here, what would they think? Hey, do you want to get them on a call really quick? Do you want to shoot them a picture really quick? Now, in the software world or in the B2B world, this is more like send your boss a video of this demo, or what is your CFO going to say, or whatever. But in this world, it's more like if they were here, what do you think?
Yeah, because
And
a lot of the sales advice that's out there in the world, I find it to be so B2B focused. And like
yeah,
that question of like, are you a decision maker? Is like not you cannot ask that to a woman that's sitting in front of you about weight loss.
anybody, yeah, this is so weird.
Such a weird question. So I think that's great. Just I like finding openings to bring up. They're like, oh yeah, like does your wife know that you're looking to
That's
start?
great too. Yeah.
And then they're like, oh yeah, we talked about it. Oh cool, does she know you're coming in? Is this something that you have support at home on? Because we find that that's a huge factor when it comes to like getting the results that you want.
Yep. Yeah, that's great. And obviously, I'm sure Hermosi has got it too. Just the idea of allowing like a 24-hour grace period of some kind to be like in the moment. Let's get you signed up right now so that you can say no tomorrow morning, but you're in. We've got your spot locked. You know that you've already made the commitment, kind of thing too.
I've got this is a tangent, but there's a
Sure.
guy that I know. He's a former professional MMA fighter, covered in tattoos, the biggest traps you'll ever see, like super scary looking dude.
Yeah,
Is,
yeah,
like South Side Chicago, and he talked about this at one point, and he was like, "Oh, you got to talk to your husband? Let's call him right now." And he would basically like intimidate the husband on the
yeah.
phone.
That's tough.
My wife is here sitting with me. She's going to sign up today, right? I would never do that, but
Too much for me. You'll probably get a bunch of cancellations a month in, but I
yeah,
also just can't handle that. That's just too much for me to handle. But yeah,
yeah,
but what if your wife were here? What do you think they would say?
yeah.
You
Uh,
know?
So I think the last one that I see in our business, and I know for a fact it happens in a lot of gyms, trainers feel very timid with quote unquote closing, talking about money, talking about the sale. So they leave a lot of things open ended. So a lot of the context of a lot of sales conversations are we'll set a trial, we'll set a visit for the gym, and somebody might do a free workout with the trainer and then be like, oh yeah, like we'll send you details, and then they just kind of drift into the world. Do you have a good like how could anybody bring about like a firm next steps without feeling like super salesy, without feeling super pushy? Maybe somebody came for a workout and now they got to go home, or a salesperson's not there. If yeah, that's kind of the question is how
Sure,
do
sure, sure.
people don't leave without a firm like this is the next step.
Yeah. So the first thing for both you and the other person is to set that as the agenda when you start. It's super uncomfortable if the person is expecting to come out of the locker room and have you high five them and be like, "Great workout, see ya," and you're suddenly like, "Well, wait a second. Actually, I'm kind of." That's uncomfortable. But if you've set the expectation of like, hey, I'm super excited to work out today. Goal of today is obviously to get you to experience this gym. Best case scenario, at the end of this, I'm going to say, hey, do you want to join? And you can think through some questions you might have so that when we get to that conversation, you're comfortable with it. Worst case scenario, at the end of this, you're like, this was awesome, but it wasn't really a good fit for me. But just know I'm going to ask at the end of it how it went. Is that okay? I don't want to be too much.
I love that. And I think any trainer can be taught that. I think where they really kind of shit the bed a little bit is at the end when it's like, so like, what did you think?
Yeah.
Did I have them send you something? Like, did they talk about pricing? But if you just open the session or open the appointment with like, hey, here's how it goes. You're gonna come to the workout. At the end of this, I'm gonna, for us, a lot of times it's given a recommendation about how often they should be training based on their goals. Like, hey, at the end of this, I'm gonna talk to you about that. Is that okay? Awesome. I love that.
Yeah, totally. And then the other thing I would say, uh, and this goes actually, I think speaking of Hermosi, but it goes toward his, what is it called? What's the new book he has? Offers.
Yeah.
No, offers,
They're not money models.
money models. The money model. So if you think about the money, you're offering a free, whatever he calls it, lead magnet or
Right.
whatever. So you're the lead magnet is come to my gym, we'll give you a free session or whatever, a cheap session. In that moment, you can be offering a what I would call a tripwire as opposed to the full item. So if you know nobody's going to say at the end of this, like, hell yes, sign me up for $500 a month for 3 months. If you know that that's like not a thing, First of all, if it is a thing, great. What you should be doing is giving a reason why now is so important, and it's all about urgency. You're like, hey, what's going on? One thing we do is we know, just like a car dealership, if you walk out the door, chances that you come back are going to be really, really challenging. So one thing we do to motivate people to actually make the commitment to themselves as well to us is we say, hey, if you sign up while you're here, we will give you an extra 3 visits, an extra 5 things, blah, 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 blah. We don't offer this anywhere else. It's the only time we're ever going to offer it, and it does last a lifetime. Do you want to take that? No. Cool. Then you offer, this is what money models would say, a downsell. And what I'm saying is if you know that first thing is like never going to happen, they're never going to sign up, as opposed to calling it a, you offer this and then offer a downsell, I'm just like, you offer a tripwire. So the person is in here saying, I'm happy to get my free thing. I'm going to say, great. Hey, I'm not sure if you're ready to sign up. Are you ready to, you're probably not ready to sign up full time yet. However, what I do want to offer is this thing over here. It's $10. It's $5. It's $25, and it's incredibly valuable. It's like take this with you to any gym you go. It's your dedicated workout plan. If I'm available over text for anything you possibly need in these 16 things. This gets them in. It
Right.
gives them your credit card. So in the future, if you want to sign them up, you already have the credit card. You can say, hey, a week later, do you want to use the $27 you had spent towards your first month, and we'll give you $27 off? Sure. Now it's even so you're like making the ramp easier. But so either offer a urgency on your product with a downsell, or just go straight to a tripwire, and then make sure you're telling them ahead of time, hey, we're going to talk about this. Be prepared to answer questions or whatever.
Cool. And that's, obviously I'm talking about a context of like you're on the training floor, but that's exactly probably what you would do on a sales call too, is
Yeah, but I think about this beforehand, so that when you are in the training floor, you're like, hey man, before you leave, I actually have this thing that's $20 and it gives you all this blah 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 blah. Blah. Would you want that? Okay, cool, sweet. Have a good one. Take it easy. You send it to them, and now they're in an email cadence, a text message cadence, and you can then hit them up later with the close, or you do the close right there, in which case you give them the agenda ahead of time.
cool. So I think that's all really good. Closing more sales, some really good advice there that, again, you don't hear it all that often in fitness,
Hmm.
because it's stuff that's, I think, taught in like the real sales world that trainers don't get taught. So I think that's really
Sure.
helpful. Now, if you want to professionalize your sales system, maybe you've got a
Yes.
lot of momentum and you're dealing with a higher lead volume. Let's talk metrics. Like, what are the metrics, and how do you really know what's going on in your?
Listen, I think everybody knows for the most part, like the most important revenue, number of new people, cancellations, whatever. The thing that I see everybody miss is throughputs. Everybody knows inputs. I ran ads, you got 1,000 views on the website, whatever. Everybody knows outputs. I got 100 people that have joined. But minimal people are talking about throughputs, which is of the ads that we ran, what percent of those people that saw it purchased? Of the promotions that we ran, what percent of people that mentioned the promotion purchased? Of the calls, of the we'll call it lead magnets, or in your world, personal training sessions that we had, initial personal training sessions that we had, what percent bought? Because what I often see people say is things are going good. We got 10 signups.
Right.
Is 10 good? What if yeah, last month we got 5. Okay. So that means you doubled. Good. Did your number of personal training visits double? No, it actually went up by 10. So you're saying you did 10 times as many personal training sessions and you only doubled the number that you got. That's extremely bad. You did a bad job.
Right.
So what everybody should be looking at is whatever your inputs are, which might just be people opening the door. But I imagine it's visits on your website, visits to your Google page, or like looking for directions to your page, downloads of a certain thing that you might offer for free, clicks on total number of engagements on Instagram. You want to take that number and the next number of like signups and divide them together. In the perfect B2B world where you've got some marketing team that has $10 billion to spend, they've got 85 different softwares that will figure out the exact attribution. Well, this person came through this funnel after 6 months prior going through this funnel. And so we're going to attribute this revenue, this customer to these things. Cool. But if you can actually just say, hey, I know in a month I got 1,000 views, 500 directions, 300 downloads, and 20 people that came into the gym, and I got 10 signups. And next month, I did the same numbers, but I got 11 signups. Something's working right.
Right.
If you do the same thing and one of those numbers in the beginning that went way down, but you still get the same number, something's working really right, or vice versa. So you have to know what that is for your business. The long story short is just figure out your conversion rate for every single input so you can just track that and stop tracking the static number of new signups I got. It has nothing to do with anything. That's just the output of the other shit you're doing.
Yeah, we talk about it in my company or in this podcast, like leading versus lagging indicators.
Yes, exactly.
Or only looks like leads generated, appointments booked, appointments closed, terminations. You have zero control over that, right? How are you measuring the activity that is generating those things and then the percentage of lead to pick up the phone to booked an appointment to showed for the appointment.
Yes. This is like this stuff that I think people, once you start saying this, they're like, oh, I'm not really into math. I don't like spreadsheets. This is too much. I have a CRM. And it just sounds kind of scary when, like, the reality of it is this is just like every day, every week, you got a CRM, you got a phone system. You're just like, how many calls was it? 100. And you're like, how many signups did we get? And you know, or you can go to your thing and it's 12. You're plugging in like six, seven numbers. You're not even thinking about it. But it's like at the end of the month, end of the quarter, a few months later, you're going, how did this go? And you can start to see not only the inputs, oh, we spent $1 billion in advertising, or the outputs, we got 10 customers. You can see the throughput. And if you're tracking this every month or whatever, you can start seeing trends. You're not going to see in the moment, oh, it seems like we're making more calls. It's going to that's just like how yesterday versus today felt. But if you look at 3 months of data and you go, whoa, that number's going up, you can start to see what's working or what's not working. So track
Yeah.
trends over time too. Please, please, please.
Yeah, and again, you're dealing with people that are not big into like sales organizations, a lot of times trainers. You can't be afraid to like lead your people like actual salespeople.
Absolutely.
Where I started was like I did sales for a long time. Then I had a trainer that I was like, hey, they don't want to train anymore. Let's have them do sales. So then they were like a trainer that sold. Now we're in a position where I'm like, I'm hiring real salespeople, and the difference is monumental. So the question that I would ask you is like, do you have a trainer that is selling, or do you have a salesperson that it works in fitness? Because the difference is the willingness to be held accountable for the most part, like the willingness to like be metrics driven. And we've seen a huge difference with just really leaning on activity. Like, hey, we need to do 100 calls a day, and we see an increase in that. If we increase to 150 calls a day, are we seeing a equal percentage of throughput from that elevation and activity? Like, you can't shy away from that. You've got to like be willing to push your salespeople to track all their metrics. That kind of what I'm saying is you can't be afraid to like tell people to input their data and track their data and not go off of feel.
100% agree. And I there's a of sales reps, a high percentage of them are familiar with and blah 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 with gyms. So it's not as though you're like, well, they don't understand our industry. It's like,
Right.
yeah, yeah, we do. It's fine. So you should be hiring salespeople who are excited about rejection and tracking and know all this stuff. And then secondarily on the trainer side, but you can absolutely, there's the amount of companies out there that sell things that are like the person I'm talking to has no idea or no business talking to me, but they're good at sales.
Right.
They're the ones who are going to outperform on the sales side.
That was an objection that I've heard from friends and even people in my organization like, yeah, but don't they need to know what we do, or don't they need to know fitness? I don't think so at all. I think you need to have a
If you can't
process.
explain that to your new hire well enough, you got a problem.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like I think if you have a process, they just have to follow the process. And as long as like they're doing the talk tracks and they understand the overview of like, let's get rapport, let's do discovery, let's handle objections. This is the options that you give them. Like any salesperson, we started hiring from outside the industry and the results have been phenomenal.
Yeah,
Um,
it makes sense.
Now the problem is compensation wise, like a lot of gyms can't compensate a real sales professional. If you're
Yep.
coming from the world of tech sales or software sales, where there's a runway to get 150, 200K, it just doesn't exist in a lot of, our goal is to give our salespeople that opportunity. We're not there yet, just in the sheer volume, but that's, I think, the biggest
Yeah, I mean,
barrier to bringing on really
some
good.
places that I would recommend. I mean, I would start Googling what are the worst paying sales jobs, because there are plenty of folks I work with now where I'll say to them like, "What are you making, like 180?" And they're like, No, dude, I'm making like 60 grand base, 20 grand variable." And I'm like, "Holy cow, get the hell out of here!" But
Yeah.
it's very often like nonprofit obviously is one, but there's plenty of, just Google like poor places, or sorry, poor paying industries to find folks. And then
Let me
the
ask your
other thing
opinion
is,
on this,
go ahead.
because one of my best friends is a national sales manager, and I went to him when I was really starting to like, hey, I need a real sales guy.
Yeah,
And he was like, you need somebody that's got like door-to-door solar sales experience
bingo.
because they're not afraid of rejection. The door-to-door thing is grueling. Um, they also like they kind of play both sides of the coin. Like they're a setter, but they also get compensated for closing the whole sales cycle. He's like, you need somebody that can do setting and closing, but they could set or they could close. And that's exactly what we needed. Like I needed somebody that's going to set the appointment, but if the call's going really well, they can close a sale on the phone before the person comes to the gym. And that's actually just happened to be the person that we brought on that's doing a really good job. But
Yeah, I absolutely recommend that. I would say that the things I would look for, or one thing I would say is just interview for ability to handle ambiguity. If you don't have things organized, oftentimes someone's like, "Dude, this guy's legit. He came from Salesforce, and he's good." You're like, "Dude, that's not the guy you want." Because he has so much more experience with 1,000 different pieces of enablement. Like,
right.
no. Um, so one, interview for that, and then two, what I found, I looked at my top 1%, like the ones I would pull to me today if I could only afford them. And they all have a couple things in common. One is and Hormozy said it, which was so weird, but it's true for mine. Complete un complete overconfidence for no reason, and complete insecurity for no reason. It's just like they're like, I should be the best, and they're also like, but what if I'm the worst? So the drive is so incredible. But the other thing that's unique is every single one of them has a chip on their shoulder. I got a
Yeah.
brother who's in jail. I got this person who never really liked me. My friends are all rich and I'm not. I grew up in a town and I was actually kind of the poor kid. All of them. Everybody in between, there's plenty of B players, plenty of A players who are just like regular people. But if those things are true, I can pretty much guarantee they're gonna do really well for you.
Yeah. I've heard the like crippling insecurity and overconfidence, but I haven't heard the chip on the shoulder. So I like that.
Weird, yeah, everywhere.
What else?
Go,
So
sorry, go ahead, go ahead.
I was just saying, what else if somebody's like, all right, I got to start taking my sales more seriously. What are the metrics? Like, what are the metrics that you would have them tracking for their scorecard?
Yeah, so I'm going to look at the inputs, the throughputs, and the outputs. The inputs are going to be um, activity, meetings booked, meetings held, proposals out, contracts closed. That's in the business to business world. So we're talking about though activity calls or inbound leads, whatever you want to call that. Deals created is like a human walking through the door and being like, "I'm here to check it out," or a call, "I'm here to hear about what you sell." Proposal sent is basically a number of people where you said, here's what it is that we sell. Are you interested? Did they get to that stage? And then the final will be contracts out. So like, please sign, and then deals closed. And they did sign. Because if you're tracking all of those, you'll find out where in your pipeline there's a leak. So
Right.
you can fix the leak versus just let's spend more on advertising.
The
The
one
other
the
thing
one
is
nuance that you
accountability.
mentioned, I want to get sorry to interrupt.
Please.
Proposals out versus contracts sent. So in our world, I'm trying to think because I like that. I'm trying to think how we would track that because on a sales call, most of them end. I mean, I guess the question is, do you disqualify them based on need or price or whatever versus they're qualified, then there's a need and you get to the part of the call where you ask if they want to take the next step, right?
Yeah, that it's just the informal. If you think about it as informal contract out, formal contract out. So it's like, how many people did you present price to and say, are you interested?
Got it.
And so it's like this will now tell you how many folks did we talk to that we shouldn't have talked to in the first place because they weren't interested in the end. Of the people that were interested, how many ended up actually signing? Now you might end up having one of those numbers be 100%, as in like every single person who comes in for a call does get pricing, and or everyone who gets pricing does sign. But if you do track that to start, you'll know that
Right.
hey, I don't have to care about this stage for whatever
Are we
reason. But
entertaining
oftentimes,
unqualified prospects?
exactly,
Got it.
yeah, oftentimes you have an issue there.
Yeah, that's great. Sorry, what were you saying
I
earlier?
said oftentimes they have an issue there where they don't realize where they're dropping the ball, and you're doing a great job of tracking this. So really, it's the inputs, the outputs, but then the throughputs, the conversion rates you mentioned earlier of like activity to call to next, blah, 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 blah. It's in there. If you see those numbers going down, that's your problem. It's crazy in the gym world to think if I'm like doing, I can't lift any heavier on whatever biceps, I'm going to try to start isolating the problem. Oh, am I not using, am I going too heavy, too light, using a certain kinds of bars, not enough cables? Should I, is it certain days of the week? Is a certain food that I'm eating? We do all of that. But then when it comes to sales, it's like, freaking whatever, dude. Where if you
Yeah.
can see, like, hey, I can see all the conversion rates along the way, I can know where the problem is. And that's the last thing I'll leave us with, too, is the other thing I recommend everybody to track, if possible, is just what I'll call firmographics, just ancillary things that you think might impact whether someone says yes or no. So this could be height, weight, where they're coming from, if they've used the gym before in the past, what kind of car they pull up in. I don't know. But if you can later, 6 months in, a year in, go, let me look at our conversion rate by car. Whoa, if they drive a Lexus, we win 80% of the time. If they drive a Toyota, we lose every time. Sweet. We're gonna run ads, and all the ads are Lexuses. Or we're gonna say we're gonna talk about Lexuses in our thing. I don't know, right? But you want to figure out what those variables are so that you can later figure out how to optimize for those variables. Just like you might think to yourself, you might track your nutrition, see how things changed, and see how that relates to your weight gain or weight loss or whatever, and then try to make optimizations. So too you do that in sales.
Awesome. How do you scale? Like you've got the systems, you got the scorecard in place. How do you get that scaled system going? And you're kind of prompted me with like using ChatGPT to build some sort of structure that you can onboard new reps into. Like how do you take this to the next level?
Okay. Sorry, just had a last minute thing here. So a couple of things that I recommend. The first thing is you need to is documenting. I know it's annoying, but what I recommend is you start with something reasonably simple. Make a quick spreadsheet, table, whatever you want to do. Just draw it up like this, that says like what your general phases are of the sales process, which could just be like inbound lead, come in for a personal training visit, talk, yes, no. In there, you want to write down uh, what is happening so that later when you want to make adjustments and you're like, how do I figure out what to do? Because I've been tracking this data and now I want to edit some part of the sales process. You're like, great, I now have this documented. So when I want to scale this and bring this to somebody else or another location or someone I've never met before who's now running a fifth location, I can make an edit in this like shared doc that says in this moment, in this thing, here's where I want you to do it. So you need to have a shared knowledge base, is the first thing. The second thing is the typical thing that holds everybody back from scaling, everybody, is time. Everybody, you're the guy who has all the knowledge. Everyone has to ask you 1,000 questions. You can't do your growing of the business because you're too busy answering questions and you can't. It's crazy. So what I do, I am recommending now, and I'm going to try to build something to make this easier for folks though, is you want to build a wiki, just like an intranet, an internal answer to questions. So we have ChatGPT. So what you can do is every time you get a question from somebody, hey, what would you do in this situation? What do I do here? Here's what happened. What do I do? Write down the question they wrote and the answer you gave into ChatGPT, and just tell it, don't do anything with this. And just keep a running list, this running GPT of that. 6 months later, you can say to it, hey, please make an internal wiki that answers all the FAQs of people and give me instructions so I can make my own GPT. Because what you can do with that is just copy, create a GPT, add, and then give everybody that link. Like right now, I have that for, I took all my sales leadership content, put it into a GPT. So you can just go like, hey, what would Mike say in this situation? And I don't even know that question is being asked. They're getting an answer, and I'm not being bothered, so I can scale my business. You should do the same for your business as well.
Yeah, we built a few GPTs that I found really helpful, and we upload call transcripts, it reviews
That's
calls, and
great.
yeah, I think that's a really good way. And just a pro tip. So we use Slack for a lot of meetings. Slack huddles are where we do all of our daily sales huddles, and you can have AI transcription of your Slack huddles. So if you, for example, took all of your AI Slack huddles, so like Slack Zoom calls, basically, had them all transcribed. Basically, all the objections, role play stuff that you're doing in those sales meetings, you can just copy and paste the transcriptions, put it into a GPT, and then have the knowledge base be built on your daily, I mean, whatever cadence you're doing for sales management. We do
Sure.
daily sales huddles that are like 15 minutes. Um, that's how, that's a really good way that we could build the knowledge base up.
Yeah.
So
You can't scale if you don't have that shared knowledge base.
yeah. So Mike, this was awesome. If somebody wanted to reach out to you, work with you, what way could they do that?
Easiest way, just check me out at officialsalestips.com or at official sales tips on Instagram, and you'll see links to go all the cool places.
Yeah, he's got the best like database of like toolboxes, playbooks, spreadsheets like that I've ever seen. I mean, it's the most comprehensive resource center that I've seen. So,
Thanks,
Mike,
man.
thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And for anybody listening, don't forget to like and subscribe and share this with all your friends.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you.
All right. Thanks, man.